Longtime, highly respected 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley today blasted efforts by his bosses, Bari Weiss and David Ellison, to hollow out the iconic, hugely successful, critically and commercially CBS News show 60 Minutes. In this time, in this moment that we've been talking about, it is an extraordinary thing to confront anybody. And it happened earlier today in a meeting with the 60 Minutes staff. Status News reports this, quote, Pelley started grilling Bari Weiss's handpicked new executive producer of the program, Nick Bilton, about what he dubbed Black Thursday, referencing the day last week in which Bari Weiss carried out mass firings, terminating Tanya Simon as executive producer, ousting Sharon Alfonsi and Cecilia Vega as correspondents. Quote, she's murdering 60 Minutes. She does not love this place. She was brought in to kill it, and she's doing exactly that. In the meeting, Scott Pelley pointed out that Bari Weiss has, quote, no qualifications for her job, and told Bilton, the new guy, quote, you have slender qualifications for this job. Pelley, the former anchor of CBS Evening News, noted that the changes Bari Weiss has made to that program, quote, have been catastrophic. He went on, quote, so why should we expect any of this is going to be any better, Scott Pelley asked Bilton. Charles Farrell, a top Weiss deputy and managing editor of CBS News, interjected then, telling Scott Pelley that he was being, quote, rude. He said this, quote, this is not actually productive. Quote, this is not an interview. Pelley shot back, quote, it's working for me. Anybody came into our house? This is 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley added. Quote, I guess you wandered in expecting to read a statement off, end quote. The veteran newsman then told Bilton and Farrell that the way management handling the firings was, quote, cruel. Farrell, the guy on the evening news side, interjected again, responded again by calling Scott Pelley, quote, rude. Pelley shot back, quote, I'm not being rude. I have some pretty, you know what was rude? Black Thursday. That was the absolute definition of rudeness, Pelley said, quote, telling Tanya Simon she had to be out of the building at 5 o'clock, sending Dragan Malovich to HR to get fired because nobody could look him in the eye, not talking about Tanya's contract, not talking about Sharon Alfonsi's contract, not talking about Cecilia Vega's contract, just calling them up and telling them they were fired. That is rude. This is a conversation. That is rude, and you were a part of that, end quote. Joining us at the table, the journalist who has that extraordinary history in the making moment, exclusively, Oliver Darcy. He reported on that confrontation at 60 Minutes in his newsletter Status, which covers all things media. John and Dominic are still with me. First of all, congratulations. I mean, I feel like I am in the right to say that I have covered everything that you've unearthed, and this feels like the biggest moment in this. I'm from California, so I always make tectonic plate references, but you know, if the first burst and quake was the hiring of Bari Weiss, this feels like the biggest rupture since she landed there.
This almost feels like the big one.
I agree, yeah.
Analogies. Listen, I've been reporting, Nicole, on media for over a decade. I've covered a lot of backlash that happens in newsrooms, including from this network, back when Ronna McDaniel was hired and then summarily dismissed. I can't think of anything that is even on the same scale as this. This is something you never see. You do not see a veteran newsman like Scott Pelley, who has worked at CBS News for over 3 decades, go into a meeting and say that the acting CBS News chief, Bari Weiss, is not qualified for her job, and that her boss, Paramount boss David Ellison, brought her in to murder the show, and that is exactly what she is doing. She is murdering CBS News's crown jewel, the crown jewel of all of television news, 60 Minutes. You do not see this sort of thing happen. And I think what we're watching right now is 60 Minutes in full collapse. And it's not just me saying that. It's Scott Pelley saying she's murdering 60 Minutes. It's Bill Owens, the former executive producer of 60 Minutes, who told me last week they're killing 60 Minutes. It's Steve Kroft, the longtime CBS News journalist and 60 Minutes correspondent, who told me last week that the program as we know it is dead. This isn't me saying it. This isn't some, liberal journalists who are woke or whatever, like I'm sure Paramount would like to dismiss this criticism as. These are well-respected people who have worked for CBS News for decades saying that this program is being killed by David Ellison. And the dots they're connecting are not subtle. They're saying that he's doing this so he can take over Warner Brothers Discovery and get his business transaction cleared by the Trump administration.
Tell me, just explain to me and our audience the significance and the difference between Scott Pelley doing it from the inside and the statement Sharon Alfonsi made when she sort of knew her fate was, that they hadn't renewed her contract. Cecilia Vega had a very pointed statement. Anderson Cooper made a very emotional and powerful statement in his last broadcast. Scott Pelley is still inside.
He's still inside, and I think in many ways he's sort of the face of CBS News. Everyone knows Scott Pelley. Mm-hmm. He was the anchor of CBS Evening News for a while. He's worked at 60 Minutes for forever. I think, almost as long as I've been alive. Mm-hmm. He's been on 60 Minutes. Everyone associates CBS News with Scott Pelley. So for Scott Pelley to stand up in this meeting and tell the new executive producer of the show that you have slender qualifications, to grill him to say, were you aware of this stuff? Why did this happen? You have no answers. Why don't you have answers? I mean, it was a very contentious meeting. I obtained the audio to this, and I listened to it earlier a few times. It is as explosive of a meeting as I've ever heard. And for Scott Pelley to do this, of all people, I think shows how contentious or how strained the relationship is in the newsroom between Bari Weiss and David Ellison and the journalists who are actually trying to, despite all the turbulence around this company, deliver the news in a truthful way.
What is your sense of, and I don't know if this is apparent on the audio, I mean, does Scott Pelley, I don't want to gloss over the fact that he describes the evening news as a complete catastrophe. Again,
something you don't hear from the former anchor of the CBS Evening News. Also, by the way, today, Dan Rather, the former other anchor of CBS Evening News, signed his name on a letter calling for the merger between Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount to be blocked. I mean, again, I've reported on this stuff for a long time. It is extremely rare for journalists to take these kind of stances. They don't like to be considered to be, in the advocacy space. But I think they all feel this is very important. And that's why you have, someone like Anderson Cooper delivering remarks saying in not so subtle ways to management, leave your hands off 60 Minutes. Sharon Alfonsi, Cecilia Vega, Bill Owens, Steve Kroft, Scott Pelley. These are not names who just go out there and criticize the institution for the hell of it. They think that it is dying before us, and they're sounding the alarm.
Not dying, being murdered.
Being murdered.
Being murdered in the name of...
By David Ellison. No one should forget that. This is Bari Weiss doing it, but David Ellison over at Paramount is allowing this to happen, and he is not commenting, and I think that's something that's going left unsaid. He's not in the headlines Bari Weiss normally is. He hired Bari Weiss, and according to Scott Pelley, not me, she was brought in to kill the show.
To murder.
And that's what she's doing.
To murder.
Yes.
And none of this happens in a vacuum. This is happening as part of the story we started the hour with, Donald Trump's rampage against the First Amendment.